Hello, good evening. It's 10 p.m. in Accra and midnight in Salzburg, Austria. It's 1 a.m. in Tanzania. This is News at 10. We're live from the News Hub at Adisawe Kanda in Accra. We're also streaming on our Facebook page and on 3news.com. You can also hear me on 3FM 92.7. Over the next half hour, we'll bring you a major news wrap of the day's news items. But first, let's start with the highlights. 113 road crashes have been recorded between January this year to date around the Adenta-Dodowa intersection and Rees Junction. Out of the number, 7 persons were killed. Residents and motorists warned government to speedily intervene to have the footbridges fixed to save lives. Environmental NGO Arocha Ghana has warned of a possible legal action to stop government in its attempt to mine bauxite at Etiwa Forest Reserve. Deputy Director Daryl Boso has warned of dire socio-environmental consequences should government go ahead to mine bauxite in the Etiwa Forest Reserve. The Labour Division of the Accra High Court has dismissed a suit filed by dismissed Vice-Chancellor of the University of Education, Winneba, Professor Mauto Advocate, seeking to overturn his removal. According to the judge, the case was beyond the court's jurisdiction. Professor Advocate is challenging his removal as Vice-Chancellor, arguing that the process used in getting him out were illegal. Energy Minister Peter Amewu has defended increases in prices of petroleum products. According to him, Ghanaians ought to be grateful because they would have been paying more under the Mahama administration. The Ghana Immigration Service has arrested 82 suspected commercial sex workers at Royko, a suburb of Medina in Accra. Deputy Public Affairs Officer of Immigration Linda Sarimante says the immigration enforcement team made the arrests in a swoop. Scores of youth from Amenfi East, West and Central in the Western region have registered their displeasure about government's decision to exclude them from the yet-to-be-created Western North region. Led by divisional chiefs, former district chief executives and with the blessing of the paramount chief of Wasa Menfi, Tetrete Ekwamwa Sechim II, they explained the development of the area will continue to retard because they stay with the Western South region. Right, so those were our major news highlights. Remember, we're streaming live on Facebook and on 3news.com. Let's start with our very first story. Now, Energy Minister John Peter Amewu has defended increases in prices of petroleum products. He says Ghanaians ought to be grateful because they would have been paying more under the Mahama administration. He was speaking to journalists in Accra.
On Monday, the price of fuel hit the 5 cedi plus mark, with fuel prices increasing from 4 cedis 94 pesos to 5 cedis 18 pesos for diesel and 4 cedis 90 pesos to 5 cedis 14 pesos for petrol. Mr. Amewu told journalists Thursday that the New Patriotic Party, since assuming the reins of power 21 months ago, has reduced the special petroleum tax twice. He said Ghanaians would have been paying more if the NPP had not come to power.
These have been very extensive reductions in prices of petroleum products within the period so far that we've been in government. The revenue loss, ladies and gentlemen, to government on the removal of the excise duty and the reductions of the petroleum levy alone between December 2017 and June 2018 amounts to 232 million Ghana cedis. The price we are paying today, if the Mahama-led administration is still in force, you will be paying quite close to between 9 to 10% higher than the current prices that Ghanaians are paying.
Mr. Amewu also noted that some 11 agreements signed under President Mahama are being considered for cancellation.
With these challenges, the government, again under His Excellency, has decided to locate the car power plant to Takoradi and to convert it into gas plant. If the NPP administration have seen the rationale of relocation of the gas power plant to avoid the people of this country from paying $40 million, what stopped the Mahama-led administration from doing the same?
He said the government is forced to pay an amount in excess of $50 million for power projects that are not needed because of excess installed capacity.
Right, let's get on to Skype now and speak with Edward Bauer. Edward Bauer is a member of the Mines and Energy Committee of Parliament. He's joining us now. Good evening, Mr. Bauer, and thank you extremely for joining us. Now, the Energy Minister and in extension, the government says that you, the NDC, should not be talking about prices of fuel because we would have been paying more if we were still under the NDC administration. What's your initial reaction to this?
Yeah, thank you very much, and good evening to your viewers. Let me first and foremost apologize if the environment is not conducive for some of these discussions. I'm in my constituency, and then on the basis of that, you may have challenges in terms of the environment. That being said, let me state first that, my brother, when you have a situation, when people are suffering because of high cost of fuel, that has a rippling effect on other activities, whether it is transportation, whether it is foodstuff, and what have you. What you will expect from your officers who work on your behalf, and in this case, the politicians, and for that matter, the Minister for Energy, is to tell you something that looks a bit comforting. But if you have a situation where a minister tells you, it looks straight into your face and tells you that look, you would have been suffering more than this. So thank us for the fact that the level of suffering that you are having is not what we predicted to have been if it was under another government. Why do I say so? Look, let me start first. There are 4 factors that affect what they call export prices. When I use the word export prices, what I simply mean is that the amount you pay at the fuel station. One has to do with the price of crude oil in the international market. Second one has to do with the taxes. Third one has to do with the dollar-CD exchange rate. And the last one has to do with the margins of marketers, those who are involved in these businesses, how much they have to make in terms of profit. Now, we do know that profits have not changed. They have not really changed their profit margins. So that one has been dealt with. We also do know from July till September 14th, prices of crude oil have been fairly stable. It has hovered around the $70 to $75 mark area. So that cannot be the reason. What do we talk about in terms of our cedi? We have a situation where our cedi has depreciated by 19%. If you have a situation where the cedi has depreciated by 19%, one thing that comes out clearly, and I say it without any the slightest of doubt, is that there will be a pass-through cost that will be given to consumer. It's like spare parts. Anytime the price of crude oil, price of spare parts go up, the cedi depreciates. The price of spare parts go up. It's the same thing with fuel. So that has been dealt with. The second one has to do with taxes. My brother, in 2014 November, when the Minister of Finance, then Setepe, decided to go to Parliament to state that they wanted to have a budget for the 2015. The benchmark revenue mark that they made was around 50-something percent, around 55%, $55 per barrel. What then happened was that suddenly we had the crude oil prices collapsing to the level of roughly around almost $25 per barrel. At that stage, one of the things that came out very clearly was that there was going to be a shortfall in terms of petroleum revenues. So there was an act that was brought to Parliament, that's the Special Petroleum Levy, that was brought there to plug that difference that will come as a result of petroleum revenue shortfalls. This was an act that had a sunset clause. When we use the word sunset clause, it means that there was a terminality. It was not a law that was going to be there in perpetuity.
So Mr. Bauer, Mr. Bauer, in the event the NDC, if the NDC had won the election 2016, would the government have withdrawn the special petroleum levy?
Yes, because what is supposed to be illegal in terms of charging, December 2017. December 2017 was supposed to be done. Then the NPP initial came and said, we're extending this particular.
Right, Mr. Bauer, I beg your pardon. Your finger is in the shot. So
okay, sorry.
If you could reposition
okay,
your finger a bit. So you were saying that had the NDC won the elections. Right, yes. I think we're having some challenges with Mr. Bauer. We'll still try and get Mr. Bauer's Skype fixed so we can continue with this conversation. This is News at 10. We're live from the News Hub at Adesawe Kanda in Accra. You can follow our live stream on Facebook and on 3news.com. You can also hear me on 3FM 92.7. Let's see if Mr. Bauer's line is stable so we can continue our conversation. Edward Bauer is a member of the Mines and Energy Committee of Parliament. Let's take a break, and when we return, we'll see if we can re-establish contact with Mr. Bauer and continue. This is News at 10. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Now, 113 road crashes have been recorded between January this year to date around the Adenta-Dodowa intersection and Rees Junction. Out of the number, 7 persons were killed. Evelyn Tingma, my colleague, was in the area and reports the non-completion of the footbridge is creating fear and panic within residents, pedestrians and motorists.
We are at the Adenta SDA junction here in Accra, and one can describe this place as a very dangerous place. Very dangerous because lots and lots of lives are lost here. The traffic lights here are not working. For instance, this is what is lying there. This is a traffic light and it is down. And this is as a result of an accident. It's been lying there for days. Nobody cares about it. Now we have vehicles coming from Accra, vehicles coming from Adenta, and those from Sakura SDA Junction also coming in here to join the road. And the traffic light is not working, so every driver coming is speeding. And as a result, lots of people are knocked down. Usually in the morning, you will find policemen here directing traffic. But in the afternoons, in the evenings, they aren't here. There's also a school here, Taught to Teen School. And this school has primary and JHS. Lots of students are there, and they also have to cross the street to the school. And these children are also harmless. So as a result, the school has contracted some road wardens to take care of the children to cross the road. And that is the situation here. But this footbridge has been here for how many years? Only God knows. And it is not completed.
All right, let's get back onto Skype and speak with Nana Akwada, Executive Director of the Bureau of Public Safety. Ms. Akwada, good evening, and thank you extremely for joining us.
Good evening, Stephen, and thank you for having me.
Great. The Medina Highway, that stretch has been completed, but the footbridge there is not done. It leaves pedestrians, residents, and commuters all exposed to the road traffic risk on that highway. Do you get the sense that we're losing sight of safety when it comes to use of bridges and intersections on our roads?
All right, Stephen, let me say that I think it's a kind of a subculture, having been in this in the last couple of years. I think it's a subculture. We as a people don't just don't value human lives, and that is what is playing out there. Just a couple of hours ago, I had to speak to one media house, and I enumerated that between July of 2017 and June of 2018, under our radar alone at the BPS, we have monitored over 125 road-related incidents. And this has resulted in more than 1,000 lives. I mean, giving us a ratio of about 1:8 casualty, incident to casualty ratio. That elsewhere will spark a massive reforms on the roads, but we haven't seen that. We live in a country where, I'm sorry to say, anybody at all jumps behind the wheels and drives. And no matter what happens today with him, the next day, if only he is capable, he can jump behind the wheels again and drive. So we have advocated for so many things that the state can consider, aside, engineering on the road, which is the matter we are dealing with right now. They must also move in into engaging the public some more, so that we can have some of these things brought to the notice of officialdom early and rectified in time.
Talking about officialdom, I know that both the NDC and NPP have posters splashed all over the Adenta Bridge, but it does appear no government has expressed the willingness to complete this important facility on the road. Is this a reflection that governments don't really care about the lives of the residents?
Well, I think I have said this over and over again, that the whole world over, where people never had their rights handed down to them like carrots or cheese. People had to fight for these rights. People had to be angry to access these rights. We have a right to life. But if we as a people are not demonstrating enough anger, enough will to get those who are paid with the taxpayers' money to deliver on their mandate, they will never deliver on it. Only a few months ago, a bridge was commissioned somewhere, but the people refused. A bridge was going to be commissioned, but the people, noting a few safety concerns, refused to get the bridge commissioned, and the minister had no choice but to budge to the demands of the people. This is what we need in our society. This is what we need in communities, so that we can get authorities to deliver unto us what we are due. Until we get to that point, it will be just as it is. Once they are able to rally 1, 2, 3 people around, they think everything is solved, and people will continue to perish. I give you a classic example of what has been happening on the George Bush Highway. Within 5 years of commission, we have lost more than 400 lives on that road. And still, the things that must be done on it are being done as slowly as if the people who died, the lives that are lost there, do not matter. But if the people living around the N1 are angry enough and they get up one morning and say, if you don't provide this, if you don't eliminate that, this road will not be used, government will immediately respond to those concerns. And so part of the problem we see in our society is also because of the docile nature of our people. I'm sorry to say that we are not active. We are not angry enough. We are not getting authority to be accountable to us.
Very poignant point you made there. But thank you very much, Nana Akwada, for your time. Nana Akwada is Executive Director of the Bureau of Public Safety. I'm Stephen Enti. This is still News at 10. You can hear me live on 3FM 92.7. We'll be right back with more news. Please stay. Welcome back. Now, the newly appointed Director of Communications of the NPP, Boabing Esamwa, has assured party faithful of a collaborative communication strategy which will ensure the inclusion of foot soldiers and party serial callers. His comments follow a strike by serial callers of the ruling NPP in Ashanti region who complained of neglect but have since called off their strike. He spoke exclusively to Selom Amenya.
The party announced the appointment of deputy national officers and directors to help in its day-to-day running for the next 4 years. The Member of Parliament for the Adentan constituency, Boabing Esamwa, is now the new Director of Communications. Speaking to TV3, Boabing Esamwa, who was deputy to Nana Kumia, reassured party members of restructuring the communication strategy to meet the demands of the era.
Once we've sorted out the structure, going forward, it should be simple to establish collaborative structures. Yes, you have a government. Government communicates. Then you have party. Party communicates. And indeed, you also have parliament. We are a huge majority in parliament. So parliament also communicates. So you have 3 arms who are all communicating. Government comes, parliamentary comes, party comes. So naturally, if we don't collaborate and sync, we will have problems.
Serial callers of the NPP in the Ashanti region on Wednesday, September 19, called off their week-long strike after a meeting with executives of the party who promised to resolve their grievances. The NEWSAT10 legislator maintained an all-inclusive communication strategy is best to ensure foot soldiers and serial callers are not left behind.
We expect that we will have a better appreciation of what the government is doing. Party Coms is here to support the government. So we expect that now that we are well positioned as a party, we'll get better quality inputs from the government in terms of information, in terms of flow, in terms of feedback. And through that process, foot soldiers will feel more included. Once they are more included, their views are being taken into account. They will then be able to also project the party better at local level. I think there are good times ahead.
He's confident Wednesday's appointment has set the party on a new pedestal for a more synchronized communication.
Whilst the government is information, don't forget that it is stripping the party of personnel, of people and all that. So the party gets a bit, in the doldrums. Then when the government completes its formation, the party then goes into the process of restructuring itself through elections and otherwise. And in that period, again, there's turbulence and there's lack of clarity about what the party is, who is in charge of what, and what it does. That is what we've been seeing. And we've gone through all that, and then about a month and a half, 2 months ago, we had our national elections, which then consolidated the party. So what we saw yesterday was a completion of that process.
And that's our wrap up with NEWSAT10. Thanks for your time. Good night.